Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden. This amazingly, stunningly good-looking man of freedom next to me, this is Tim, and this is Second Legacy, and thank you for stopping by. Today, we are going to talk about a few interesting topics. We're going to dive into guns are now equal to drugs, according to the New Mexico governor, the paragon of gun control now, weirdly. We're going to talk about an interesting case coming from felons reclaiming their rights and all different pieces. That one you'll find interesting. And of course, we have a goofy gun grabbers dating back to 1986 via Tim. This is going to be a great one. But with that said, Tim, how the heck are you doing?
I'm doing good. But this one dates back to 1934. But yes.
Well, I mean, listen.
The last time they messed with it was in 86.
On the newspaper. No. You stop it. The newspaper clip, and people will show, the record will show at G3 at the end. That date is 1986. I'm just saying. But you're right. The NFA is 1934. You are correct per usual, Tim, because you are so wise. So wise.
Anyway.
So, yeah, we're ready to rock. You ready to rock this?
Yes.
You want to hear how drugs are equal to guns and the Second Amendment right? And it's all the same? You ready?
Yeah.
I'm so ready.
It sounds good to me. And we're going to address the whole issue. Should felons, convicted felons, have their rights restored?
Oh, we're gonna dive in.
Yeah.
Oh, this is going to get spicy. Dr. Button Pusher, are you alive and well? How you doing? Oh, okay. Short and sweet. All right.
The COVID beep.
Well, let's get into this.
I don't want to talk about it.
Beep. The COVID beep. Can't talk about it. That's
it's going
usually
around.
That button's reserved for when
Yeah.
Tim sees an orange square on Twitter. But anyway, that's a different story. On number one, Tim.
Yes.
New Mexico's governor. We've talked about her a little bit.
Just
a smidgen.
Just a wee bit.
A wee bit. It turns out that she's going to go to state Supreme Court, and she said some pretty silly things to defend herself, which is per usual. I mean, my personal favorite, I think, to date, is the Secretary of Health for New Mexico that said that violence is now a contagious disease. I think that's my personal favorite in this whole saga, and there's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, we've heard that before, that violence is contagious. You know,
you know what else is violence? Silence is also violence.
Silence is violence. Words are violence.
Yep. Uh-huh.
Pretty much anything that you disagree with the people that are suffering with the leftist mind virus, anything you disagree with them on, it's violence. It equates to violence.
Yeah, it is weird.
Yeah,
it is weird. It's odd how that happens. Anyway, but we got a lot more stuff coming this week about continuity. Anyway, that's a different thing for a different time. But look what's happening. She's going to the Supreme Court, Tim, because we both know from, just covering these things, that she wrote this health order and it didn't work out too well. It got smoked around in court. Even her own Democrats said, nah, it ain't going to happen, boo. Well, now the minimized order with parks and playgrounds is going to the Supreme Court because it was done through a health order. So as you can see here, number 2, advocates for gun rights are urging New Mexico Supreme Court to block the emergency order. Now, this is important. Carrying guns at public parks and playgrounds, that's what this is all about. So it's not the matter of what it is, Tim. It's the matter in how she did it, which is the most crucial part of the fight that we've been doing forever. ATF, executive, president, admin, all the pieces. It's all gone through executive, and you cannot do that.
That's true. You cannot do that. You're not supposed to be able to do that, but they do it anyway. I mean, and we're constantly fighting these things in court. ATF does it, IRS does it, EPA does it, and she does it. And it's just like, let's just do what we want. The rules are for you, not for us. Yeah. We just do what we want.
Rules for thee, but not for me.
Yeah.
Is that the reference we're going for there?
That's
I agree. Well, everyone loves it. Everyone does love that. So let's jump right down to number 4, because this is what's actually going on to the actual argument from the gun rights side, and listen to her defense. This is the funny part. The petitioners say Lawan Grisham has overstepped her authority as governor, no kidding, in violation of the Second Amendment, and that gun violence and drug abuse don't qualify as public health emergencies that can limit access to firearms, even temporarily. Now, you would think, Tim, that's pretty straightforward. I would say it's pretty easy, right?
Yes, absolutely. It's easy. And it's true.
It's not hard. Yeah. Can we get a Gavin Newsom, by the way?
That's true, because it's true.
I love that. I love that so much. Well, it turns out, Tim, it's comfortable. It's comfortable. The governor says it. Look, this is number 5. In defining what constitutes a public health emergency, the governor asserts that both gun violence and drug abuse comfortably fall within that category because of extremely dangerous conditions posed by weapons and toxic chemical agents, posing an imminent threat to many New Mexico residents. The temporary orders don't violate constitutional rights, she said.
Yeah, inanimate objects are, pretty dangerous to public health. It's not like a
It's
contagion
the same as drugs.
that you have no control over that literally infects one person to the other. That would be a public health crisis.
That's violence,
right?
That's violence.
That is violence.
That's violence, Tim.
But
yeah, and then
if a virus were laying on the floor with a sign next to it, like "Don't pick this up; it might be unsafe. If you don't know what you're doing when handling this, please don't." But somebody picked it up anyway and ingested it, and they got sick. Well, then that's what they're talking about here with firearms, right? But when you don't have a choice and you actually get sick because you just pass by somebody you don't know is ill and you get sick, that's public health. But an inanimate object that you have to pick up and purposely misuse is not a matter for public health.
It seems so simple.
You would think,
and like I think you would think, Tim. That was well said. I like how you're going stoic on this one. You're like, yes, I agree. It's dumb. The thing that it just boggles my mind, and this is something that I think I'd love to hear your thoughts on this from a standpoint of the Biden administration last 3 years. Everything that would be common sense has just been flipped on its head completely.
Oh.
And I think that's not just in the gun world, that's everywhere.
Everywhere.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, like, you're talking about, you said it so well, an inanimate object sitting on the floor. Well, that's the same as drugs that you actively pick up and you intravenously or inhale, whatever. Unless you're Bill Clinton, which you didn't. Whatever you do, it's the same.
Right.
It's so mind-boggling to me because drugs require active use to actually use, but guns do too. But it's different with drugs, but it's the same with guns. It's just like, are you just trying to change definitions because
they are?
You just want something outcome? I mean, it just doesn't make sense.
They're forever changing definitions. They've changed the definition of democracy. They've changed the definition of all this stuff in public health. They just changed the definition. If it doesn't fit for them, well, that vaccine doesn't really prevent illness. It doesn't stop the transmission. It might make you less sick. We don't really know. We'll just call it a vaccine anyway. We're not going to call it gene therapy because I'll scare people. They don't know what it is. So we'll just rename it and redefine what vaccine is. And now this is what they do. They redefine everything just to get the outcome that they want.
There's something to that.
You can't equate a conscious effort to do something, either pick up a drug or pick up a gun to misuse it, to just, getting sick and you have no control over it. One you have control over, the other you don't. One can be a public health crisis, the other is not. It's pretty simple, you'd think.
Exactly. No, you would think, but that's what's so fascinating about this, and not to belabor the point, belabor, not to bemoan, whatever, doesn't matter. Words.
We'll just make up words. Beleaguer.
Not to let's just pull a Biden in. The thing. It's so fascinating when you look at what they're actually doing in this example alone, and this happens a lot. Drugs. Well, that's a bad thing, and it's all about addiction, and it's something that people can't necessarily help, and it is the conditions that brought them to that point, and we really need to help them, and don't use drugs because drugs cause this. However, when it's guns, if guns only didn't exist, this wouldn't happen. Well, but it's like, why don't you say, if drugs didn't exist, this didn't happen? I
know, but if you just extrapolate this out, and you say, well, look, people, like 42,000 people die every year in automobile accidents. So is it a public health crisis? That's far more than people that die by the misuse of firearms. And they're classifying that as a public health crisis, or trying to. So are cars a public health crisis? How about planes that have their doors fly off mid-flight? Is that a public health crisis? Where do we draw the line on public health crisis?
What about tunnels under cities randomly? What about those?
I mean, seriously.
What?
Critical thinking is not something that these people possess,
No, it's not ideal. It's not ideal. But you know what I heard on Second Legacy, Tim? This great new channel on YouTube.
Yes.
It's fantastic. The witty banter is great. I'm here for the sarcasm meters. I heard through the grapevine that because guns are exported from the United States, because we have a Second Amendment, that goes down to Mexico, which makes Mexico so bad, which therefore increases immigration. Ipso facto, if we didn't have guns, we wouldn't have immigration. Therefore, it's not Biden's fault. Therefore, get rid of the guns. We solve both problems. That's what I heard.
I know. Isn't it crazy?
Second Legacy.
Yeah, the mental gymnastics these clowns have to pull, It's pretty funny. I mean, I wonder if they pull muscles. Like, do they have to constantly go to the chiropractor every time they come up with a new idea?
No.
I mean,
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Like they're tearing perineums all over the place.
I'll tell you what the
Look
public.
that up. You'll have a joke.
I'll tell you what the health crisis we have in America. It's the leftist mind virus. That's the public health crisis we're suffering from right now.
Man, you are going to make Dr. Button Pusher use that button a lot today, aren't you?
Beep, 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 beep. I don't even know when I cross the lines of YouTube's rules. I just go with what pops in my head.
No, I know. But that's the best part because you have me here to help you be like allegedly nothing happened. We don't know, maybe. And then we talked to Dr. Button Pusher and I behind the scenes like, yeah, Tim went on a rant on that one. Pickles and ding dongs, that gets through. Yeah, that's good. Ooh. He mentioned an orange square. Let's get the beep out. Exactly. But I think it was important to note, Tim, as we wrap this segment, drugs, guns, the same. Therefore, health order. Therefore, constitutional. All good. Of course, I'm being sarcastic. This woman's insane.
Yes. And don't use drugs, kids. They're bad. But it is a choice.
And also guns, because guns are bad. And they're drugs. And that it's a thing. It's a thing. But you know what? We'll have to address this later. I'm sure we're not hearing the end of this because she's like quadrupling, septupling down now.
Yes.
But are you ready to explore about this felon case that might undermine gun control forever and make them lose their minds from the inside out?
Oh, yes. This is good stuff.
Oh, this is interesting. This is interesting. Okay. So this is number 9 as we go into this segment. She lost her gun rights for passing a bad check. Now she wants the Supreme Court to restore them. Now, the thing that I like about this, and I'm really excited to talk to you about it, is this is almost the exact opposite of the Rahimi case. You remember that case, right?
Vaguely.
That the SCOTUS just heard? Okay, so the SCOTUS just heard about the Rahimi case around Second Amendment. The whole idea was domestic abusers get guns, don't get guns because of misdemeanors versus felonies. And he's like the worst human alive, right? Well, it goes to the SCOTUS, and the gun controllers use that, and they make hay on it and say, look how bad this person is. Very, very bad person taken in front of the SCOTUS. This is like the inverse, okay? This woman wrote a bad check.
Court ruled on that?
Like 20 years ago. Not yet. They heard the hearing.
Yeah, okay.
No.
I didn't think it had gone to the court yet. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yep. No, you're good. So they've heard it, but it was like like a train wreck. It was just like, oh man, this guy's such a piece of crap. This is the opposite. Okay, so let me tell you about this Utah woman. Listen, let me show you what she is, and then the potential here is what I'm excited that we talk about. A Utah woman convicted of a felony for trying to cash a fake check in 2008 has taken her fight to own a gun to the Supreme Court. Her attorneys filed a petition for review with the High Court last week on this question, so this is the end of December, whether the Second Amendment allows the federal government to permanently disarm petitioner Melinda Vincent, who has a 15-year-old nonviolent felony conviction for trying to cash a bad check. So this is a nonviolent felony, writing a bad check, and the number was $498.12.
Yeah.
That's what she's lost her gun rights over. So now here's the question. Nonviolent felons in something like a financial crime with writing a check that's over a certain amount. Where do you stand on that, Tim? What do you think? I'm curious.
No, well, first of all, I think just in general, if you serve your time and they release you and you've served your debt, you've paid your debt to society, then all rights should be restored. Your Second Amendment rights, your right to vote, everything. And of course, the left will push, well, we'll give you your right to vote back, but we're not going to give you your guns back. We need you voting.
Not the gun right.
Yeah. So and this is a perfect case for the Supreme Court, because here we have, as it says, a nonviolent felony. Somebody wrote a bad check for $498. I mean, you can steal more from Target today, and they won't even charge you in most cities right now. But yet she, 15 years ago, lost her rights due to this. And now we're going to have the Supreme Court decide whether or not, if you have a felony conviction, whether or not you can have your rights restored. Now, hopefully, the judgment that they issue doesn't say, well, nonviolent felonies, yes, violent felonies, no. I don't know that, I firmly believe that if you've paid your debt to society and if you're safe enough to be released back into the public, then you're safe enough to have your rights restored. And if you can't go along with that, then I think you have a problem.
Right. So now listen to this. This is where it gets really, really interesting. Remember, there's two different things when you're looking at these cases, people. You've got the actual case they took to the Supreme Court, but you also have the sympathy element of, is this person afflicted by the system worse because of undue process, right? In the Rahimi case, it's like, okay, you're a really bad dude. This kind of colors the case a little bit. In this scenario, it's like, okay, what in the world's going on here? Listen to a little bit more about this woman here. Since she wrote the bad check, this is number 12. With a new lease on life, she earned a behavioral science degree from Utah Valley University, followed by a master's in social work from the University of Utah. She opened a private practice in therapy and counseling. In 2018, she completed a master's degree in public administration at the university. Vincent is the founder and executive director of the Utah Harm Reduction Coalition, a nonprofit that works to develop science-driven drug and criminal justice reform policies. She also started the first legal syringe exchange service in the state. Get me a better candidate to go.
I know, right?
Good Lord.
When the left goes to malign this person, it's not going to go well for them.
Right. Right. It's like, get me a better I don't think that you can.
Yeah.
Like, this is fantastically good. And I'm like, oh, okay. Okay, this is interesting. Now, that's the case. That's why it's like the perfect candidate.
Yes.
This is where it gets really fascinating for what Amy Coney Barrett has said previously, one of the sitting SCOTUS's justice, all right? In a dissenting opinion in the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals case before she joined the High Court, Barrett concluded that only people convicted of dangerous felonies should lose their right to keep and bear arms. She traced the history of the Second Amendment and the punishing of convicted felons to colonial times. History, she wrote, is consistent with common sense that legislatures have the power to prohibit dangerous people from possessing guns, but the power extends only to people who are dangerous. Quote, in some, founding-era legislatures categorically disarm groups whom they judge to be a threat to the public safety, Barrett wrote, but neither the convention proposals nor historical practice supports a legislative power to categorically disarm felons because of their status as felons. So she's actually taking what you were just saying.
She's splitting that hair. Yep.
Split the hair, violent versus nonviolent. And I think that that's where this case is so intriguing, because you're not talking about any type of violence. So from the public lens, you're not talking about the potential avenue of, well, they were violent before, but they're not going to be violent now. Here's the felony. Here's the violent felony. No, she wrote a bad check. What they're essentially talking about here, and what Amy Coney Barrett was talking about in this dissent, was splitting the nonviolent from the violence. I mean, you're talking about, I don't know the percentage split, but that's what she wrote.
Think about where we're at in 2024. We just talked about this earlier in this very episode.
I'm in Florida.
Words are violence. Silence is violence. You are in Florida. Quit rubbing it in. But, silence is violence. Words are violence. All these things are violence. So if we use that as a standard under 2024 definitions, then farting in public could, be a violent assault against somebody. And therefore, you're going to lose your Second Amendment rights if you're convicted of farting on somebody, because they keep lowering the bar of what a felony is and what's violence. Because if you ask somebody on the left, everything in the world is violence. If it's being done by somebody on the right, now you can burn entire cities, and that's mostly peaceful if you have the leftist mind virus. But if you're on the right side of the spectrum,
that was for warmth.
Yeah, it was just cold.
Keep
it was
bringing it up. They were
totally
cold.
Innocent.
You keep bringing it up. It was a non-violent protest. They needed some warmth. They were outside. Tim, you are so unfeeling.
I'm very violent because I chose my words poorly, and they were violent words.
You are,
and therefore I probably
bad words.
Yeah, under Justice Barrett's purview, I might not have my right to own a firearm anymore because of all the violence I've spewed in this one video. Yes,
that's true. That's true. You are very violent. Like, I just hope we don't bring up any orange squares later for Goofy Gun Grabber.
You're going to keep saying that. I'm going to say the word. And I'm going to keep saying the word, and it's just going to be like a series of beeps for 5 minutes.
And then I'm also going to have Dr. Button Pusher just put a little black square over your face so we can't read your lips too. Oh, I will. Oh, don't you tempt me. Don't you tempt me. But anyway, in the end here, Tim, can you think of a better person to take to the Supreme Court for this type of content?
This is ideal. And
I can't.
Yeah, and we've talked about this, right? We've talked about how these cases get to the courts, and first of all, you have to have standing, and you have to have been, negatively affected by a law or an action by a government entity before you have standing and can even bring the court case. A court case just got dismissed. I read the news this morning regarding the whole Trump on the ballot thing, and they dismissed the case because the person that brought the case, the judge claimed didn't have standing. So here, this person has standing, and this person is also an upstanding community member that had a bad check writing episode 15 years ago. I mean, 15 years ago, checks were in common use, and I think everybody has written a bad check at one point in their life or another. And it many times it's not even malicious. It's just, it happened, right? You overdrew your account. So we don't know what happened there, but still $500 today. Like I said, you can walk into a Target in San Francisco and steal up to, I think, was it $900? I don't even know what the number is. It's stupid.
I think it's nine. I think the number is, it's either 900 or 1,000.
Right. And you can just steal that right out of the store, and you're not going to get charged with anything, much less a felony. To hear this woman. So perfect case, perfect person.
Mm-hmm. I also like how you incorporated and wove in your tale common use. I really appreciate that. Me right here, this guy.
We do this
that
a
was
little
very
bit.
good. That was quite the weave. It was good. It was good. It was amazing. You started out sleepy, but you're coming in strong. I like that. I like that about you, Tim. You know what? You know what time it is?
No, is it my time already?
Since you're it's your time.
Oh,
it's G3 time. It's time for the gun grabbers.
The goofy gun grabbers. Folks, today we have a very special gun grabber. The chief gun grabbers themselves made a post on X that is simply unbelievable. They basically admitted guilt to something that, who knows, maybe it'll give us standing in a court ourselves here one day to undo the NFA. And this is what they posted. So, and this is my response to them and their original post. So let's read the original post. And the first post is from ATF Los Angeles. So one of the branch offices of the ATF, they said the National Firearms Act, NFA, introduced in 1934, requires NFA firearms to be registered and taxed. The $200 tax was quite prohibitive at the time, which was the goal of the NFA. All taxes collected go to a general fund. We knew that. So, but the point here is they admit that the tax was imposed to deny you your rights, to be prohibitively expensive so that you could not exercise your rights. The Supreme Court has held in other cases you cannot tax a constitutionally protected right. And here we have the ATF saying, yeah, we taxed it, and we did so we can make sure that the guns down the road would eventually go away and not everybody could have access to them. Only the wealthy people will have access to their rights. You over here that, earns minimum wage and maybe, struggling financially, well, you don't get your rights. You're not qualified.
Yep.
But, Bill Gates,
he
can do anything he wants. He's got the money.
You just nailed it. You hit, that's one of my pet peeves, and you hit it perfectly. The thing, if there was one thing on this planet, if I could sit down to somebody who's on the middle of the fence who might vote Democrat, might not, might be an independent, I don't care. If you are questioning gun control versus gun rights, this is the one I would hit. They are quite literally, and this is a Democratic tactic, you can see this in every single state, they are quite literally penny pinching you out of your rights. I mean, like, they used to do this, and this wasn't just Democrats, this was politicians in general and legislatures back when they would actually do extremely unconstitutional things to prohibit voting. They would do the same thing against voting rights. Oh, you a white guy? You can get in here. Oh, you're not? Maybe next time.
Yeah.
Or once that was bad, then it was, oh, do you own land? Do you? That's unfortunate. And then once that was bad, it was, oh, did you pay your poll tax? Oh, you can't afford it. Well, maybe next time. They are literally penny pinching you out of your rights. The same people who are telling you they're for you, down with the big guy, the millionaires and the billionaires, they're terrible. Yeah, same people are telling you you can't have your gun rights because we're just going to price you out of it. You can have them, but you got to pay for it. That's so disgusting, man.
Just switch up the topic. Take guns out, put freedom of speech in there. Would you agree to paying a $200 tax every time you publish a post to your blog or you make a post on X? I mean, that's the same thing, right? You have a right to say what's on your mind. So is it okay for the federal government to say, you can say whatever you want? We're not saying there isn't a First Amendment. All we're saying is you got to pay a $200 tax to exercise it.
Correct.
And today, when we passed this law, $200, it was back in 1934, it was designed to be prohibitively expensive. It was like half the price of a car. So today we're going to say, well, $200 isn't really prohibitively expensive. So we're going to make that $200,000 for you to exercise your rights.
Right. You know what? I'm feeling a bear trap, and I'm about to dance in a minefield. You ready for this one,
Tim?
Tim?
Go for it.
You got your tap
Doc,
shoes on?
get your finger close to the button.
So here's something that I think is extremely powerful. What we just did on this little part, this segment of this episode, and we've done this a few times, we're drawing similarities to other rights, the Second Amendment to the First Amendment. would you take this on your voting rights? Would you take this on your First Amendment rights? Well, no, of course not. Then why are you taking it on your Second Amendment rights? Because they are equal rights.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is such a powerful point, and that reaches every single person on a commonality level. I think that should actually be the conversation that we have a lot more on the 2A world. However, here comes the minefield. In the 2A space, what we typically see a lot of the time is out of my cold, dead hands, and we're not even talking about this because you can't infringe on the Second Amendment rights, which is 100% correct. You cannot. However, when you're trying to reach people who are not necessarily aligned in your camp already, the argument of look what they're doing, imagine this with other rights, is going to be more powerful than just come and take it, mother.
Right.
Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think that's such a powerful point. Both are correct approaches, but if you're looking to grow your tent with all the new gun owners that are coming in, I think the approach of look what they're doing to tax you out of your rights, because yes, you have them, but they're trying to prohibit. Look what they're doing to your First Amendment rights. Look what they're doing to your right to vote. Would you accept this? No, yes, good talk. Let's go, baby.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, you would think
some people don't like talking about that.
This is like in your face, something that we could definitely use in the courts. Should we ever find that right case that we could take the NFA to the Supreme Court and challenge it once and for all? I mean, this tweet would definitely be an arrow in our quiver defending the fact that the NFA is 100% unconstitutional. It always has been. And the fact that it has stood for almost 100 years is an affront to the Constitution. And it needs to be rectified immediately.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Well, and that's what's so interesting, dude. I don't think that if you did the exact same tax today, like the same NFA style, if you did an NFA style tax on handguns and on magazines and on ammunition, that wouldn't even get close to flying. Like that would not even be introduced because there's no chance. And yet it stands from 100 years ago. I don't know. It's very interesting. It speaks to a lot of stuff there, but you know, I think what you said in your tweet above that was dead on. Was interesting how this might come up again. I think that was dead on.
ATF, please keep tweeting.
Please keep tweeting. Tweet it up, baby.
Yeah.
But this next one, you brought us paper, Tim, like actual parchment.
See, I didn't know this was in this episode. This is from yesterday's or the day before yesterday's episode where we talked about the NRA and Wayne LaPierre stepping down in disgrace, and me pointing out the fact that the whole Firearm Owners Protection Act that President Reagan signed into law, it had a poison pill attached to it called the Hughes Amendment. And the hope was by attaching the Hughes Amendment to the bill that because they didn't have line item veto, that they would just have to kill the whole bill, right? But they didn't. They passed it, and Reagan signed it, and the NRA, and Wayne LaPierre is in this picture. Okay, so he was actively involved in this whole process, and one of the many reasons I've hated him ever since I was a young man. And they lied, and they told President Reagan, and then they told their own members, "Hey, look, take the win on the Firearm Owners Protection Act, swallow the poison pill. We're going to challenge this in court. It's wholly unconstitutional, the Hughes Amendment. We're going to challenge this in court. We'll get it undone, but just sign it for now." And then they went and they put it in print and sent it out to the NRA members. And here it is, the receipts that they lied to us, that they intentionally took away machine guns. They were fine with it. They never went to court as they promised. And then later, decades later, one of their own presidents, Marion Hammer, came out and said, "Oh yeah, we didn't care about the NFA. We didn't care if you had machine guns or not. And we certainly don't want you having bump stocks." That's the NRA, folks.
It's so interesting how I know I'm not trying to pile on to the NRA fight thing because I know that's a big thing, but genuinely, it's so interesting to see the political structuring and gaming of the system that they were attempting to do, and then they didn't do it. Now, of course, it was completely hinging on them doing it. But if going back to that poison pill piece, this is why it's so fascinating. I mean, that is literally a write-up from 1986. I was 5 weeks old, by the way, when this was written. I just want to throw that out there. Yeah, that's right.
That's a couple years away from standing around nuclear weapons, so...
Oh, it's okay. Whatever.
Yeah.
You were in Chernobyl, weren't you? Anyway, it doesn't matter. So here's the point. They were doing this same type of lawfare that we see now with poison pills, with are they going to get the votes? They're going to bring it up. Are they not going to get the votes? How are they going to? This whole game has been going on since the 80s and 90s. And the 2A rights have been a bargaining chip and a currency piece back and forth. And it's so fascinating to see it in print right there. I just think that's interesting.
It is. And I've kept this for years because
for this moment.
yeah, well, it's just because it was a reminder to me why I had a beef with Wayne LaPierre and why I've had a beef for decades with the NRA. And there was a time where I actually wanted to get involved with Pete Brownell to try to fix the NRA. And I, Pete had asked me to help him and I agreed to do it. And then I was short lived because soon thereafter we had the whole thing happen in Vegas. And then the NRA came out and said, oh yeah, we need to ban these bump stocks because they're basically machine guns. Like, all right, well, that's it. You're done. And then they went on to bring in Oliver North to try to fix things up, and he resigned because of all the wild corruption of Wayne's administration.
The corruption, right?
And so that turned out nasty. And now finally, Wayne's finally been forced to step down, and now we're going to see where this all goes. But this is a long time coming. He needed to go.
It is. It's so cool, like just to see that. I mean, it's to be part of the fight and to be, because I'm would be considered the newer generation of this fight, and it's so interesting to see this in actual print. But yeah, that was a great goofy gun grabbers, Tim. You ate your Wheaties on that one. You came ready.
Well, I have to attribute the second half to you because you brought it in. But it's interesting. It's good to talk about because that is a quite interesting piece of NRA history and our fight. The history regarding the fight that we've been fighting for decades to try to preserve and protect our Second Amendment rights. All right, folks. Well, we hope you enjoyed today's episode of Second Legacy, and we'll talk to you guys soon.